The College of Business at Ohio University launched a hands-on initiative in the fall of 2024 with the goal of making every student not just AI aware, but AI capable. And in ensuing years, become a great example of a responsive university leading in AI and entrepreneurship. You're listening to the Getting Smart podcast. I'm Tom Vander Ark, and we're pleased today to be joined by Paul Benedict. He's an associate professor at Ohio University, and he's also the executive director of the Center for Entrepreneurship. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Tom. I really appreciate it.
I was really excited to learn a month ago about this AI initiative at the College of Business at Ohio University. You've been there 15 years, I guess, and leading the center for 5 after a career as an investor and an operator. What's the origin story on your rapid and what looks like successful response to the rise of Gen AI?
Well, I appreciate the question. I think, the things that are clear to me or I think are clear to me are that AI is here to stay. It has the potential to be transformative. I think it's more likely than not that it will be transformative. I'm old enough to have been starting my career in finance and startups and such in the first internet boom in the 90s. And I would assert that where we are in AI is probably comparable to where we were in the internet in 1994, right? And if you think about the impact of the internet, mobile, et cetera, in the last 30 years, imagine that impact from AI in the next 30. And I think it's possible that it's even an order of magnitude greater than that. So I come at this thinking about what do people need to know to succeed and thrive and recognize opportunity and take advantage of it. And, obviously there's a lot of discussion about jobs going away, AI is taking jobs. Some of the headlines are sensational. Some of the studies about it are good. Some are less good, I think. What I think is probably a safe bet is that the people who master the tools and think about how to build them into their workflow and be more efficient and get to higher level of thinking and product, they're going to win. And the people that don't engage or don't learn how to use the stuff will lose. So I am deeply passionate about, what can we do to prepare our students to thrive in this new environment.
Center for Entrepreneurship, did that start 5 years ago?
No, we were formed in 2010, became operational in 2011 or 2012. That was before I was here. So we're still relatively young. And certainly the things that we've done post-pandemic and growing post-pandemic are a little bit different than pre. It was probably not great timing on my part to take over the center in 2020, but here we are.
Well, but you'd agree that entrepreneurship is more important than ever, and the opportunity set is really unparalleled. I appreciate in a recent article you said AI is helping a lot more people launch new businesses better, faster, and cheaper. And so for young people, while some of these employment reports about the dampening of early career employment opportunities may be the case, the opportunity to start something has just never been better. And it strikes me that that's why entrepreneur, not only in business, but across the university has never been more important. So it feels like you stepped into that leadership role and entrepreneurship maybe just in time to catch this wave.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I agree with you. I aggressively agree with you. I think the time and cost to start something, to test an idea, it just keeps plummeting. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, if you wanted to sell something on an e-commerce site in the late 90s, right? You're talking about, months, up to a year, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested to get started. And I can have, in a class of 30 students, I can have them launch a Shopify site during our class period.
Yeah.
Like basically for free. It is. And and again, the technologies are just getting crazier and crazier. Are you aware of a tool called Replit? It's one of the
Sure.
coding tools. So I demoed in a class this morning. The students were talking about a problem they wanted to solve related to tracking assignments, right? And I'm not a developer. I've been around software startups, but that's not my background. In in basically the class period, we went from idea to a functioning application that could pull data from Canvas and present it to students with, when's your due dates and what's overdue by subject, et cetera. Like in the class period. And it's remarkable. The question is, how creatively can you think about the problems you want to solve? And when you find a meaningful one, don't let your perception of what you're good at or not stand in your way, right?
I love I read about a rapid prototyping workshop that you run where I got a
Oh,
preview that this has become part of your programming. And so not instead of just, writing a business plan, you can in an hour or two really prototype a new business model.
yep. Yeah. We talk about customer discovery, right? The lean launch methodology is you have an idea, you have a hypothesis, you think you understand a problem that the customer wants solved. And so the single best thing you can do first before forming an LLC, making a logo, anything is, can you validate the problem you're trying to solve from the customer? And there's a lot of different ways to do it. Interviews are one of the best. But if you can put a message of a minimum viable product of your product out into the world, get people to show up there and interact with you, right? And express interest in it. Like that is even more powerful, or can be, or at minimum, it's a great supplement to the customer discovery interviews. And so, again, those are skills capabilities that were recently harder to access if you didn't have certain types of technical background.
Let's go back to the origin story of this initiative and maybe a bit more about Ohio University. You're in Southeast Ohio and in Athens, a business still with a good reputation, but I wouldn't historically have thought about it as a hotbed of innovation. How, who, and how did you mobilize this AI initiative, and how did it really end up transforming the way you teach business?
Sure. Well, we are small but mighty. So Athens is foothills of the Appalachians. The community around us struggles with poverty and all the associated challenges there. And you're right. From a scale perspective, we do not have the sort of critical mass of startups, particularly in tech, that you'll find in other big cities. But relative to our size, we punch pretty good. And so there's a lot of people here that love the place, right? And there's something about the environment here, the town. It's the oldest school in the Northwest Territory and the first community that was built around the notion of putting a university there. So in a lot of ways, it is the quintessential university town. And our unfair advantage for people considering where to go to school is if they visit campus. If you come here, you're probably going to get hooked. And so we've got those things working for us. In terms of the AI initiative, again, I think we're always focused on, I think our brand is student-centered. We are a research university. We are an R1, maybe not quite the same kind of R1 that University of Michigan is, or our friends up 33 in Columbus. But our focus is student experience, right? And so what can we do to help there? And so, our dean, her background is in information systems. She did her dissertation in machine learning some years ago. I won't say too much more about that, but she's had a vision. She's been supportive, and really most of the work has been bottom up from faculty. So we were committed to making sure that last year, for example, that every single freshman in the College of Business had enough exposure to the capabilities to maybe think differently about what they could do, right? And I'm sure you saw the data from ChatGPT in the last, I think it was week, where the 50% drop in usage correlated to the end of the school year, both for universities and high schools. And it's hard not to infer some things about that, right? I think the thing that we're trying to get to is not just what's the quickest way to answer the problem and move on in this sort of transactional way, but how can you think differently about what's possible and get to higher levels of thinking and critical thought with what the tools can do, right? And so that's how we designed the exercises and experience for the freshmen last year, and are trying to build on that now.
That's such an important observation. I think Seth Godin the other day noted that most people are trying to automate easy stuff, but where the real value is asking ourselves, what's the difficult stuff that we could do today that we couldn't do a year ago? And that's what I really appreciate about your response. The real reason that I texted you as soon as I saw your article was somebody painted the side of your building green and wrote experiences required. The best
Yep.
way to learn business is to do business.
Yep.
Where did that sort of experiential, hands-on approach come from?
Well, that has been fundamental to Ohio University College of Business's approach since I've been here, right? I guess this is my 12th year teaching. So it starts with, it's the leadership, it's individual faculty to work in all ways. We're trying to give students access to experiences. As you know, employers don't really care what you majored in. They don't really care what your GPA is, what classes did you take. They want to know what you did, right? And so we're trying to facilitate that stuff. Candidly, one of the things that makes me nuts is when there's a disconnect between what students have to do in classes and what they do outside of classes to get experiences. Those things ought to be, a perfectly overlapping Venn diagram. But yeah, we're in all ways trying to build experiences for our students, and entrepreneurship in particular. Like, you can't learn entrepreneurship reading textbooks. Like, no, you can't. And truthfully, even simulating it has some limitations, because you can't get a handle on the emotional stakes, right? And so part of what we try to do is make it feel more real. We have the luxury of an alumni base that is fiercely loyal. And, when a student reaches out to an alum to ask for advice, I tell students this all the time, and they don't necessarily believe me all the time, but you're actually doing them a favor, even if they're the CEO of a really big company, super busy, wildly successful. Hearing from a current student at OU is going to be the best part of their day, right? And they might not get back to them right away, but it is the best part of their day. And so, we're trying to facilitate that as much as possible.
In a recent article, you said, we wanted students to use AI from day one, purposefully and on real world problems. And you described that the faculty has outlined sort of 5 big buckets of areas of application of AI that seem to both make a difference and serve as powerful learning experiences. Tell us about that 5 big buckets and the effort to create powerful experiences for students.
Sure. So I think the overarching goal for all of it was, how do we get our students to critical thought about what the tools can do? And so we came up with 5 examples. They may not be, exhaustive. I'm sure there are others, but we started with information retrieval, summarization, idea generation, problem solving, analytical thinking, and then as you mentioned earlier, the sort of lean launch in a day, test in a day, kind of thing. And so through all of those, it was, how do we think a little bit differently about what we're trying to use these tools for, and get beyond the basic, in some ways lazy, quick answer to the question and then moving on, where there might not be any authentic learning happening, right? And to be to be candid, my attitude, I won't necessarily speak for everybody, but my belief is that if you have an assignment, an assessment that a student can answer quickly with a language model and not learn anything in the process, it's a design flaw in the assignment and the assessment, not the student's fault necessarily for quote unquote cheating. It doesn't absolve them of responsibility, but we got to think about, how we're adapting to make what we give them more relevant, right? Which admittedly is really hard work. And it takes time and effort, and redesigning an entire class is not easy, but that's, something of what we're trying to do.
I think it's useful to lay out the different ways that students can work and learn with AI. Most of the dialogue today is dominated either by the idea of AI tutoring, which is mostly around information retrieval,
Right.
or as you said, cheating, the notion of just using AI to write low-level assignments. And so I appreciate the idea of doing more
Yep.
with smart tools and articulating the ways in that learning process that AI can be brought to bear. I particularly like the AI for Good edition. We appreciate that impulse. I think it's at the heart of entrepreneurship, because it's really right. It's spotting opportunity and sprinting to value creation, and I love the idea of using AI in that process. Sounds like you've incorporated that into the Center for Entrepreneurship.
We have yeah, our belief is that, fundamentally entrepreneurship is about creating value. It's about making the world in some way a better place. Sometimes that can be about income and wealth and all of those things, and which is great. And, you know, my experience has been both, prior to the university and being in startups and early stage investing, and having some wins and having some losses and making some money and setting some money on fire, that it's hard. It's not for the faint of heart. And so to take that on, you've got to be motivated, in my opinion, or at least it helps to be motivated by something that's bigger than I want to get rich. There are other ways to make money, right? And so, solving a problem for a customer that you care about, making your community a better place. And also thinking about, if you go get what we call jobby job with a larger established company, take your entrepreneurial mindset and skills there and develop new products and services, right? Help that company adapt and evolve, grow. The disruption throughout the economy is only accelerating, right? So, the sort of skills that we teach in testing ideas, adapting, recognizing opportunity, pursuing it. I mean, that's what employers want as well. So, and truthfully, most of our students don't immediately start companies when they graduate, and probably nor should they, right? And so, that's really how we try to frame it. And the other thing that I think is important related to that is it's intensely personal. What is motivating to me might not be remotely motivating to you, Tom. And so we got to give our students the freedom to pursue the stuff that they care about. And a lot of people talk about personalized learning, and some people are doing really well at it. I think the jury's still out on how do we get to personalized learning at scale. Ethan Mollick is a professor at Wharton. I have immense respect for him. He's talked about personalized learning at scale being some version of the Holy Grail, and I totally agree with that. And so, I think there's something in here. Somebody is going to develop some things and figure out a way to unlock more of that capability with these tools.
We appreciate that you've even used the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a kind of a problem-finding framework, just to encourage young people to think broadly about the problems that they could take on. Was that successful in sort of cueing interest in problems, areas where young people could make a difference?
Yeah, I think so. So it's funny. Idea generation is it's a skill, it's a muscle. You got to practice it. And a lot of people's first idea is everybody else's first idea. We sort of kid sometimes that we're trying to get people past the GPS golf ball and get to ideas that one are maybe feasible, but also are trying to tackle more meaningful problems. And it's certainly true that, most students arrive at 18, 19 years old with really interesting consumer experience, but not a lot of business to business enterprise. How does this other, half to 2/3 of the economy function that isn't consumer driven? And so one thing is, can we try to unlock some of that thinking by directing idea generation in some interesting ways? So the exercise we gave them last fall was around clean energy, and encourage students to, have a conversation with the chatbot about what they cared about most related to energy. And then for each student, the direction of where those ideas went was different based on what they told the GPT they cared about, right? And so, it's a small thing, right? But I think it's important.
We appreciate that observation and that you've made and that Dr. Mullick has made. It's a powerful example of how AI can improve entrepreneurship. I love how this has really transformed the business school, and to some extent, you're seeing change across the campus. You have a business school has a new AI concentration, and I think the engineering school has a new AI degree program. Is that right?
It does.
And you can add this as a concentration area in the business school now.
Yeah, so in our MBA programs, we have a series of stackable certificates, right? So the students can choose a 3-class sequence in any number of about a dozen, I think now, disciplines that again that are interesting to them, right? So you can stack business venturing and entrepreneurship with AI and data analytics, for example. And so it creates a lot of flexibility. And we've got, we have an on-campus MBA program that's cohort based and more traditional in that sense. But most of our MBA students are online, remote, having remote synchronous classes. We do live sessions regularly in all of our online classes. So I think it's a good mix. And again, it gives the students the option of choosing what's interesting to them. It's nice to hear you say that it's transformative. I don't know that we're there yet. I'm hopeful, and I think we're doing a lot of the right things. And it feels like we can't run hard enough, fast enough. It is changing so fast that I get anxious when, if we're not, getting things done in an immediate way. And I realize the rest of the world some parts of it may not be moving all that fast, but it is being motivated by a little bit of fear can be healthy.
Anything new and next, either at the Center for Entrepreneurship or at the business school this year or next year?
Yeah, definitely. There's some things that we have coming that I don't think I can announce yet, but it would not surprise you that we're trying to be super aggressive about where we go from here. And again, I think our North Star is student experience. Related to that, as you mentioned earlier, the community in which we live and work is important to who we are. And so we are going to be working to include the community in our AI initiatives.
I appreciate how you've been super responsive, how you've taken an entrepreneurial approach to this. The leadership from the business school, it's just been exciting to watch. As you think about the success of the past, let's say 18 months of standing up your AI response, any gratitudes come to mind? Any people that you want to give a shout out to that you've learned from or that have really
Sure.
contributed to the success at Ohio University?
Sure. I try to live my life by the Socrates quote that all I know is I know nothing. And actually I think the fun truth is that we don't actually know that Socrates said it. Plato said that Socrates said it, and Plato was Socrates' student, so history's first, rate my professor, Plato saying my professor's a moron. I don't think that's what Socrates meant, right? It's the constant search for growth and learning more and being in the room with smarter people than you. And so we've got colleagues here. Alumni out in the world are an amazing resource. Paul Raitzer with SmarterX and the Marketing AI Institute and the Artificial Intelligence Show, a fellow podcast.
It's the best weekly rundown on AI that's out there. Raitzer's leadership is just unparalleled, and he loves Ohio University, and he super appreciates your leadership, Paul. So.
Yeah, well, he mentioned us a couple weeks ago, and I was a little shocked. But I can't say enough good things about him, and his team is amazing. They're super generous, and they actually have their conference, the Macon, here in about a month, 5 weeks. So I'm going up to Cleveland for that. Super excited to soak up all the knowledge from all the other smart people.
You mentioned your dean earlier. You've had that have really proactive business school leadership.
Yeah, we have, and I think as I mentioned, our dean Jackie Rees-Ulmer has a background in this stuff, so she gets it in profound ways, and frankly, in ways that I don't, right? And so she's been super supportive in basically giving us the space to try things, and fortunately, none of them have been spectacular disasters yet. But I do feel both with her, with my other colleagues in the College of Business, colleagues outside the College of Business, the Honors Tutorial College here at Ohio University is really a gem, a truly special thing, modeled off of the tutorial model at Cambridge. It really is Ivy League quality education at a modest public school price. And so those folks are the dean there. Chris Bross is amazing. We have a provost that sees it. Our president has really set the strategy for all of us. So it's exciting, right? That we've got that leadership, but I think what's more important is most of the work that's happening is at the grassroots level, bottom up from the faculty. And I should add that our Center for Teaching and Learning, they've done great work. Their AI principals have been super helpful and giving us direction. One of their AI faculty fellows, Paul Shovlin, has been a great resource to me. I don't think it's a coincidence that all of these people are named Paul, but I don't know what's going on there, but there's got to be something. I don't know. I got to figure it out. But yeah, I'm really lucky to do what I do and work with the people that I get to work with.
We've been talking to Paul Benedict. He's a professor at Ohio University. He also directs the Center for Entrepreneurship. Man, we've learned a bunch of lessons. I love the commitment to every student AI capable, not just aware, but AI capable. I love the commitment to powerful learning experiences. I love the way you invite students to sprint to value creation in an hour, not just over a semester. And appreciate the way you model learning leadership. So thanks for being with us, Paul.
Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Thanks to our producer, Mason Pasha, and the whole Getting Smart team who makes this possible. Until next week, keep learning, keep leading, and keep innovating for equity.
Thanks for tuning in to the Getting Smart podcast today. We want this podcast to be actionable, insightful, and a great way to learn about what's next in learning. In order to stay on the cutting edge, we need people in the field to tell us what they're hearing, what they're wanting, and what they're needing to learn more about. Got a topic or a guest in mind? Send your recommendations to me, Mason at gettingsmart.com. And if you like what you're hearing, don't forget to leave a review in Apple Podcasts or subscribe wherever you listen. Feel free to share the podcast on social media using the hashtag GSPodcasts. Thanks so much.